go ahead. Here we'll get started. All right, everybody. As I said, Brian Collins, a former Imagineer, and you've listened to or watched his interview, possibly multiple videos of him taking us on tours so far in the semester. So this is he's taking us around the Magic Kingdom. And so what he'll kind of give us a tour of the park from an Imagineer's perspective. So Brian, if you want to go ahead and take it away.
Okay, there we go.
Welcome.
Fantastic. So here I am live from Legoland, and it's great to see you all. Just kidding. That'd be impressive if that castle was made from Legos, but it's not. That is ours. And as you can see, it's been repainted for the 50th anniversary of the Magic Kingdom. So I'm really happy to be joining you guys in Dr. Cody's class. As he mentioned, you know, I've had the chance to zoom in a couple times, actually had a chance to come up there in person and speak to his class. And it's always great to be able to do that and kind of share the park with you guys, especially from that Imagineering point of view. So just to kind of give you a real quick little background, when I worked as an Imagineer, my role in Imagineering was as a show writer. So as a show writer, you're not writing shows per se, but you're writing for the Disney show as a whole. Because as you know, everything we do is based on story and how we tell that story and how we immerse our guests in the story and the amazing places that we've created here. So you can thank me for maybe some of the bad jokes on the Jungle Cruise, and I did a great movie ride, and basically worked in all the theme parks, Epcot, the Magic Kingdom, and Disney Hollywood Studios. I did not work on the Animal Kingdom because that wasn't built when I was working as an Imagineer. However, for the past 30 years or so, at least, I've had an ongoing relationship with the theme parks and the theme park industry. It's kind of like being in the mafia, you know, once you're in, you're in and you're never out. So to this day, I still do a lot of consulting, leveraging that Imagineering background. I work for other theme parks and consult for them around the world, and just having a lot of fun right now. So now that you know a little bit about me, I thought what I would do is kind of take you guys maybe for a walk through the Magic Kingdom, and we're going to start here in the hub. I see you've got your wonderful background there, and we're going to go up and take a look at that statue called Partners of Walt and Mickey. And here he is. This was sculpted by a gentleman by the name of Blaine Gibson. Blaine was a legendary Imagineer. He sculpted all of the characters that are in Pirates of the Caribbean. He sculpted all the characters in the Haunted Mansion and the Hall of Presidents. And this was one of the last major pieces that Blaine did for us, Partners, and it shows Walt kind of like looking over his theme park and the guests coming down Main Street, USA, you know, just kind of saying, look at what we've done, Mickey. You know, that's really kind of the idea. A couple of neat little Easter eggs on this. If you zoom into his ring finger, I don't know if you can see that, but on his ring finger, there's actually an Irish wedding ring. Walt Disney was very, very proud of his Irish heritage. And at one point, he and his wife Lillian, they actually took a few trips to Ireland. The first one when he was scouting locations for a movie called Darby O'Gill and the Little People. And so while he and his Lillian were over there, Walt bought he and his wife those Irish wedding bands, which he always wore. And y'all see that in many portraits of him as well. The other thing that's really kind of a neat little detail on this sculpture, if I can zoom in and you can see it,
Oh yes.
is that symbol on his tie. And a lot of people think that that's kind of like some kind of like Chinese calligraphy or something like that.
Just come do it from here. The Mickey Mouse.
But that is actually a symbol for a place called the Smoke Tree Ranch, which is in California. And that is a place where Walt had a home, a vacation home. He used to go there quite a bit.
Ryan, your video cut off.
Oh my gosh, hang on.
That's all right.
I'm trying to navigate around guests and all of that too, so it gets a little tricky, guys. So bear with me if the video gets a little shaky. You know, those tourists like to swarm around this joint. I don't know what it is.
Hey, Brian.
Yes. Yes.
Quick, a question, something I want you to tell the students about.
Yes.
When you and so you know they're watching on a big screen, so the picture's a little distorted for them, but that's not
right.
Not your issue.
Right.
They all know they can rewatch this and see. And when they do rewatch it, when you zoomed in on the partner statue,
yes,
above his finger, you saw the wire running through the sky, running from the castle over to a building in Tomorrowland. Can you tell the students what that wire is there for?
Yeah, I don't know if you can see it here. I'm kind of zoomed in on it. It may wash out on the screen, but there's a wire that runs from the top turret of the castle all the way across to where Tomorrowland is. And basically, every night before the fireworks, that's where Tinkerbell comes out of the castle and she actually flies down. The cast member, I hate to do this, guys, but I'm going to have to rip a little pixie dust off. It's not really Tinkerbell. Her agent, we had some issues. It was very expensive. So one of our cast members that portrays Tinkerbell will come down that wire and she will set off the fireworks every night. And it's I can only imagine what the view is from up there on that wire. They do get hazard pay. Interesting fact. The cast member that does that ride gets hazard pay for doing that. So.
Well, and correct me if I'm wrong, they cannot do it on inclement weather, right?
That is correct. Yeah, if there's any sort of rain or lightning, you would not want to be up there. Yeah. So we're going to go ahead and go through the castle. The castle now is all decked out for the 50th anniversary. And they actually took and overlaid on top of the pink. There's almost like a iridescent coating that they put on there to kind of give it a bit of a shimmer and sparkle. And you see all of the, you know, the 50th anniversary bunting that they have on the castle and the wraps around the turrets. That was all done for the 50th. Whether or not that stays after the 50th, we'll see. But it's really very gorgeous right now. I'm going to go ahead and walk through the center of the castle and take you guys out into Fantasyland on the other side. This drawbridge here that we're going through, this is non-functional. So that gate is just decorative. In California, they do have an actual working drawbridge. And that drawbridge has only really been used one time, which was during the grand opening of the park. Inside the castle, you see these beautiful murals here. So these mosaics were all hand inlaid. And I'll kind of get up close here so you can see a little bit of detail. But it's got glass beads. And then all of this gorgeous hand inlaid mosaic. A lot of this that you see has got 14 karat gold leaf on there. There's also other like silver and copper in some of these scenes, but just gorgeous. This was designed by a very famous Imagineer. Her name was Dorothy Redmond. She was an art director for us for a long, long time. And the mural itself was, the mosaic itself, once Dorothy did the design, was given to a German gentleman named Hans Scharf. And actually, if I scroll down here, you can see their names. But Hans Scharf is the one who actually designed the mosaic. And this was all inlaid piece by piece, in place as you see it there. So you can only imagine how long that took for that artistry to happen. As we come around here, we're going to come out to the backside of the castle and spin around. Again, just another just gorgeous view of the castle. One of the beautiful things about this castle is that virtually from every angle you look at it, and I always encourage when I'm bringing guests through the park to kind of stop and look up, look down, you know, just look all around, because most people, as you see, are kind of like walking around here in this courtyard area, and you miss so many of the details. But to just stop for a second and look up like that and get that striking view, especially if you like taking photographs, you know, you get some just amazing, beautiful pictures here. On the outside of the castle up here, one of the things that you see is a crest. That is actually going back to Walt Disney's Irish heritage that he was very fond of. That's actually the Disney family crest. The Walt Disney family, his grandfather emigrated to this country from Ireland, and that's the actual Disney family crest. You will find that on every single Disney castle throughout the world. Right behind us,
Brian.
Yeah.
Brian, real quick, before
Yeah.
you go too much farther, can you
Yeah.
show them the Cinderella, the Sleeping Beauty statue, and kind of tell them
Sure. Yeah,
the difference between
absolutely.
seeing it as a kid and as an adult? When you spanned around, I saw it, so it reminded me.
Yep. Yep, it's right over here. So this is just one of those fun little discoveries. And again, it's nothing that most people would know of unless you know about it. But this is Cinderella Fountain, right? And there she is. And as adults, when we look at this, I'm going to zoom in a little bit. You see there's a little crown. I'm going to try and zoom in. Oh, hang on. Okay, are you guys still with me? There we go.
Yeah, we're
So
here.
if you see, okay, you see that crown on top of her head. And as adults, when you look at that, the crown is kind of levitating up above her head. But if I kneel down, you'll see how the crown comes down lower and it rests on top of her head. And that means that every child that's looking at Cinderella sees her as the princess that she is. So it's just kind of like a nice little hidden homage to the story. Again, standing up, you see the crown is above her head. So that's just kind of a neat little feature.
Yeah, thanks for doing that's one of my favorite kind of details there. So thanks for doing that.
Over here, we have Sir Mickey's, which is one of our gift shops. And the question I get a lot is, what's with the beanstalk? What's with Jack and the Beanstalk? You know, Jack and the Beanstalk was in a Disney film, but it's not referring to Jack and the Beanstalk. It's actually referring to a Mickey Mouse short that came out a long time ago called Mickey and the Beanstalk. So again, just kind of like an homage to that. One of those kind of like Easter eggs that, unless you know about that particular short film, it doesn't really kind of register. But when you know about it, it's like, ah, okay. So there's Mickey and the Beanstalk. And then this is the carousel, Cinderella carousel. Now this is a gorgeous, in a way, piece of art in of itself. And I want to zoom in on the horses because you're going to see these horses on this carousel are just gorgeous. They're all hand painted. They do take and refurbish them every so often, and the detail on them is just stunning. If I scroll up a little bit, and I don't know if this is going to start before I move on, but up above you see these little panels, like this one here in the middle. And basically what they do is they tell the story of Cinderella on these different panels as the carousel is going around. But again, this is all hand carved wood up there. This is an old carousel that Disney found and brought to the parks and refurbished themselves, obviously, and added all of the Disney imagery to it. The horses, though, like I said, are just really gorgeous. I'll kind of zoom in and let you guys see some of them. But it's one of those things that a lot of people don't really appreciate, but when you stop to look at it, you really notice just how amazing they are. So I'm going to walk this way, and we're going to kind of go through Fantasyland here. What you see in front of me where the green awning is, that's the It's a Small World ride. And we're going to kind of come out around over by where the Haunted Mansion is. And I've got some really fun little facts and stories in history to share with you about that. Does anyone have any questions while I'm walking?
Here, I'll ask if anybody has questions. The way we're doing this is I'm looking at you on the screen, so if anybody has questions, they'll relay it to me and I'll ask them. So let me ask them real quick. Yeah, I think we're okay for now, Ryan. Thanks.
You bet. So It's a Small World, probably best known for the earworm of a song that's in there. And once you've written that once, you can never get that song out of your head for the rest of the day. It's a Small World. The song that is in there, It's a Small World After All, was written by the Sherman Brothers. And the Sherman Brothers actually had a long collaboration with Walt Disney. They actually scored several of his movies, probably the most famous being Mary Poppins. So all the music for Mary Poppins was written by the Sherman Brothers. He did a lot of the music in the theme parks. And the story for the music created for It's a Small World is interesting. Originally, when Walt created that attraction, he was thinking about having the he was thinking about having the national anthems from all these different countries playing in the attraction as the boats were going through and seeing the dolls from the different lands. But when he rode through it, and he realized that all those there's so many different national anthems playing that they were just competing with each other. And you couldn't really make anything out. It was like this horrible cacophony of a sound that was coming out. So he called up the Sherman Brothers and he said, listen, we're opening like within a week, but I need to change out this song. It just isn't working. Can you come up with something? And that's when they went ahead and they composed It's a Small World, and the rest is history. So I'm standing now right next to a restaurant called the Columbia Harbor House. This is in the transition area between Fantasyland and going into Liberty Square. I just want to stop here and show you real quick. Again, I want to zoom in. It's one of those things that people walk through and they don't really stop to notice. But if I zoom in on this sign, you see the beautiful detail. This is all metalwork. And this is a brass sign that was created, but the detail in there is just amazing if you stop to look at it. So when you guys come to visit the theme parks, you know, if I can walk you through, I'd be happy to. But if you can't walk it through with me, at least kind of stop and take the time to kind of slow down a little bit and stop every once in a while and look at the things that you wouldn't normally notice. And you're going to find the level of detail is just amazing. I'll show you another example of that too. This is the backside of Momento Mori. Now, Momento Mori is Madame Leota's old house where she used to live in her corruptible mortal days. From the backside, it doesn't really look like it would be a place where Madame Leota would live because it's themed to blend in with the Fantasyland architecture that's here. But the one thing that you do see from this side is the sign from Memento Mori.
Brian.
Yeah.
I don't want you to walk any farther.
No,
before I tell you.
I was gonna. Yeah.
Well, I don't want you to walk and have to loop back. We have a lot of Tangled fans in the class.
Oh, okay.
After you show them this, can you show them the coolest themed restroom, like kind of waiting area? Don't go in the restrooms, but like the coolest themed waiting area in the parks.
I will, and there's
you.
some details in there too that I'll share with you guys. So let me show you this one little Easter egg for Memento Mori. This is the sign for Memento Mori from the backside. Like I said, the rest of the building is themed. Sorry, hang on. Okay, am I back with you?
Yeah, we can see you.
Okay, sorry, technical difficulty. So the rest of this building is themed to look like the architecture, the Bavarian architecture from Fantasyland. The sign from Memento Mori, though, the way that you know that this is a home of Madame Leota is if you zoom into the pupil, you can kind of see her right there. So again, one of those details that most people are never going to notice, but you know, it's really kind of fun. Let me turn back around, and I'm going to take you to show you, yes, the possibly some of the most amazing restrooms in all of Walt Disney World. Usually people would not be so proud of their restrooms, but this little area was rethemed a few years ago after the movie Tangled came out, and they did a gorgeous job. This actually used to be, when the Magic Kingdom first opened, they actually had a skyway inside the park, and you could get on and take the skyway from over here all the way through Fantasyland into Tomorrowland, and this used to be where the location was of the loading station for that skyway. After the skyway closed down, they opened up this entire area, put in the restrooms, and they rethemed it to Tangled. So as you go through, and these are the restrooms just in front of us, but you see the lanterns, and you can get some wonderful magic shots at night. Now, if you remember the name of the horse that was entangled, was Maximus. We know Maximus was here because there are a couple apples, because we know he loves apples. So there's some apples on some crates. But the other way that we know Maximus came through this area is that if you look at the ground, you see there's all these horseshoes and everything on the ground where different horses have come. But if we zoom in on some of these, you can see some of them have got Maximus's name on the horseshoe. So you can tell that Maximus walked all the way through here because his named horseshoes are imprinted in the ground all the way through. Again, just one of those really small little details that I love. Right in front of me is the queue area for many people. It's their favorite attraction. It's certainly one of my favorite attractions. When people ask what's my favorite attraction, it's going to be either the Haunted Mansion or Pirates of the Caribbean. And certainly the Haunted Mansion is way up there. You can see the beautiful ironwork for the gate, and as we zoom in, you see the bat up there. Again, one of those details. A lot of people don't really notice it, but it's a nice little detail. In the queue area, out front of the Haunted Mansion, we have this cart. This cart was actually in a very famous Western movie. If you ever are up late at night, and The Sons of Katie Elder is the name of the movie. Sons of Katie Elder was a classic John Wayne film, and in the movie, Katie Elder passes away. Well, she's murdered, and the town tries to cover it up. So her sons come into town to try and get to the bottom of what happened and really kind of prove that she was murdered, because, you know, they're all trying to cover it up. It's actually a very good movie. But y'all see this hearse, obviously minus the ghost horse at the front. Y'all see this hearse very prominently in the opening of that movie. This is what carried Katie Elder's casket. And then, of course, the Haunted Mansion. And again, looking at the ironwork, looking like the little people at the top up there, you see some really nice ironwork. Also, a lot of things that detail that people's miss are the chess pieces up on the roof. So if you look in the back, you can see different chess pieces: the rook, the queen, pawns, and those decorate just kind of like a creepy thing. This is designed to be kind of like a Hudson River mansion that you would see in upstate New York. Now, the one in California, Disneyland, is designed to look like a New Orleans mansion, and that's because it's located in New Orleans Square in Disneyland. Here in Orlando, we don't have a New Orleans Square, so they made this look like a Hudson River mansion, and I'll come back to that in a second and tell you why, because there's some really interesting stuff about the architecture in this area that kind of all ties together. But I want to spin around real quick. This is as you come out of the Haunted Mansion, that's the exit area there. You pass by the pet graveyard, the pet cemetery, and you know, here you've got a cat that's lived 9 lives, and I don't know how well you can see it, but the little medallion there on the front has all 9 of the cat's lives marked in the year that the cat died. Over here is beloved Waddle, a little duck. Lil Waddle saw the truck, but Lil Waddle didn't duck, is what his epitaph reads. But probably one of the most famous residents of the Haunted Mansion's pet graveyard is Mr. Toad. So Mr. Toad's Wild Ride was a much beloved attraction that was here in the Magic Kingdom for many, many years. And when they took out Mr. Toad's Wild Ride, it you know, a lot of people were really upset about it. So as an homage to Mr. Toad's Wild Ride, that, you know, he will always have a presence in the theme park. If you look in the back there, you can see there's Mr. Toad in our pet cemetery in the back. And Mr. Toad's Wild Ride is now in the area where the Winnie the Pooh ride is. And as you're, I can't remember if it's as you're going in or as you're coming out, I think it's one of the opening scenes of the Winnie the Pooh ride. There's actually a mural that shows Mr. Toad handing the deed over to Winnie the Pooh. So just kind of like a little inside joke there, which is, I think, really fun. as I was saying, there's a lot of interesting architecture in this area. We're transitioning now into Liberty Square, and from Liberty Square, as you go through Liberty Square, and it curves around into Frontierland, one thing that's interesting is that it traces the history of American architecture from the East Coast to the West Coast, and from the 1600s to the 1800s. So the way that works is if you look at the Haunted Mansion, like I said, that would be upstate New York in the late 1600s, but then you spin around to Momento, Mori, and you have the Harbor House. Now you're in kind of like New England. And then as you walk through Liberty Square, and it's going to get kind of bottlenecked here, guys, so bear with me as I kind of navigate through the crowd. But as you do that, you find yourself in colonial America. You find yourself in Pennsylvania, right? So you're going further east, and now you're in the 1700s, the mid to late 1700s. And when you get to the Hall of Presidents, 1776, and keep going around, and I'm going to walk forward here, bear with me. A couple more kind of interesting little facts and Easter eggs I'll show you real quick before I move into Frontierland. But over here, we have a reproduction of the Liberty Bell. This Liberty Bell, our Liberty Bell here in the Magic Kingdom, was actually cast from the same mold as the original Liberty Bell. So it's authentic in every way, except for the crack, obviously. Another really kind of a neat Easter egg, and we kind of come around here to the Christmas shop.
Oh, okay. Nick said it's already on.
So now these are all designed obviously to look like buildings in colonial America. And here, this is what would be like a typical house back in that time. And on the front of the house, you see this little sign here for Keppel. Again, most people are not going to have any idea what that is. But again, going back to Walt Disney's Irish heritage, Walt Disney's grandfather was Keppel Disney. He immigrated to this country, like I said, 2 generations ago. The date 1779 doesn't have anything to do with the family history. That just places the building in time. But Keppel Disney, that's the real kind of magical Easter egg here. That was Walt Disney's grandfather. So a little homage to him here. And I'm going to kind of keep walking here. Landscaping is something obviously that Disney is very, very proud of. We have several tree farms now that are quite large, where they care for and grow a lot of the plants and trees and things like that that are needed to sustain all of our theme parks and the resorts as well.
Brian,
Yes.
correct me if I'm wrong. That tree that we were walking around, that's Liberty Tree.
Yes.
That is the oldest thing in Walt Disney World, right?
So they think. So there's a whole story. See, I keep trying to like, I'm not sure how much time I have.
Yeah, I know.
So
Oh, and this.
I was gonna. There's a whole story about this tree. So let me tell you about this tree. It's an amazing story in of itself. So when they were creating Liberty Square, they knew they wanted to have a tree that represented the Sons of Liberty trees. So back in colonial day, the Sons of Liberty, they would hang these lanterns from trees, usually in the town center. And it's where people would gather in the evening, kind of like the town square, to tell stories and hear about news and things like that. So the Imagineers knew they wanted to have something like that in Liberty Square. So, but they didn't have a tree. So they actually found this tree off property about 2 miles. And trying to get it here was a really big task. So what they finally decided to do to move it is they actually bore a hole straight through the thickest part of the trunk, and they put a pipe through that hole, and then they lifted it out of the ground with the root ball, with that, using that pipe, moved it here, replanted it. They filled the hole in, and over time the hole grew in, so you can't even really see it where it was anymore. But it was such an amazing horticultural feat that to this day, the Disney Horticulture Department on their costumes, their uniforms, that this tree is the symbol for the Disney Horticulture Department. It's really quite an amazing story. And you can see that there are all kinds of like wires and stuff on this tree. Those wires actually serve a couple purposes. One purpose is to kind of help support some of the larger branches and all of that. But some of the other wires are actually grounding wires. So if the tree is ever struck by lightning, it's grounded, and that's what these wires are here. Being in Florida, obviously, you know, we've been known to get a hurricane or a storm or two. Right across the way is Hall of Presidents again. Like I was saying on the Keppel sign, the year doesn't relate to the Disney family history, but it places the year of, you know, of the building. So as you go through Disney, whether it's here in Liberty Square or as we go into Frontierland, you'll see up there, for example, 1787 places that time frame of that particular building, in this case, the Hall of Presidents. So going back to kind of like tracing the history of architecture, we started on the East Coast, upstate New York, Hudson River, came around to New England, colonial America. We made it further east into Philadelphia. Right over here on my left, let me kind of come over so you guys can see it. This is the Diamond Horseshoe Review. So that takes us all the way to St. Louis. This is kind of modeled after a St. Louis Opera House or Theater House or Playhouse. So that takes us to St. Louis. And now we cross over. Across the way are the rivers of America, right? Huck Finn and Tom Sawyer. And we cross over the rivers of America and we into Frontierland. So now we're in the 1800s, and now we're getting into Colorado. Now we're getting into New Mexico. So again, just going further west and further ahead in the timeline. If you look at the dates on the buildings, you'll see up ahead it's 1876, so 100 years after Liberty Square. And we have a couple buddies up here. There's Big Al. Country Bear Jamboree is, again, a classic attraction that's been here for a long time. It seems to be one of those attractions that you love or you hate. You know, you like it or you don't. Personally, I kind of like it. You know, it's, you kind of go there. There's Big Al. See if we can get him to wave it to you guys. So Big Al. He plays a mean whiskey jug. Big Al does. And as we keep making our way here through Frontierland, you'll see off in the distance, you've got Splash Mountain. And then if you curve around to the right, that takes you all the way to Big Thunder Mountain out there in the distance. Big Thunder Mountain, of course, being in Arizona, Utah, one of those type of areas. So again, that kind of takes you even further, a little bit further out west. Any more questions or anything come up, or should I keep going?
If just while you're walking, we talked a little bit about Thunder Mesa in the class. Can you talk about Big Thunder Mountain and its connection to the old project?
Thunder Mesa. Thunder
Mesa.
So there were a couple projects that Walt Disney was thinking about creating years ago, and some of them didn't come to fruition for different reasons. At one point, they were looking at doing maybe a historic theme park in like Williamsburg area, somewhere like that in Washington D.C. area, but that never happened for a lot of reasons. Another project that Walt Disney was looking at creating was something called Thunder Mesa. That was going to be kind of like an old West town. And again, there are a lot of different reasons why, you know, some projects could happen. There was vicious. There was going to be a mine, kind of like a mining attraction there. But the roots of a lot of the attractions and ideas that were created for Thunder Mesa, for example, did live on in other forms or modified forms in other theme parks. And Big Thunder Mountain is a perfect example because that was going to be basically one of the marquee attractions that you would have had at Thunder Mesa. So that's the connection there. Sometimes, you know, a Disney attraction will be conceived years in advance of when it actually sees the light of day. It's really fascinating. And again, there are lots of different reasons for that. But that's a great example of one. So.
Thank you, Brian. Thanks for that.
Yep. So now we're entering into Adventureland. This is the Spanish Caribbean, and you can tell by all the terracotta rooftops, just the architecture. This is designed to be kind of like a Spanish Caribbean island architecture. As we get around the corner, you'll see Cuba in Spain represented. I'm going to take a little detour here because one of the things I want to do, obviously being Disney, you can't have Disney without merchandise, right, and souvenirs. And, you know, nobody leverages souvenirs like Disney does. But even the souvenir shops that you have at Disney are not like a normal souvenir shop. This is the courtyard that you spill out into after you come off of Pirates of the Caribbean. And you can kind of see as I walk around, there's this little outdoor open area, and then it comes into a little covered area. That's actually at the far end there. That's the exit of Pirates that people are coming off of. But you can just kind of see how everything, again, is so richly themed. You know, this would be basically like all the pirates' booty and treasure and stuff that they've collected and captured over the years. And a little Easter egg here is if I zoom in on that little red urn up top, you see that coin. That's actually a doubloon that was from the first Pirates of the Caribbean movie, one of the props, doubloon props from the movie. So they took it and they put it up on that urn. So just kind of a fun little Easter egg. So if anyone wants me to pick them up anything, just send Dr. Cody a note, and just kidding. So we're going to come out of the gift shop now. And we're going to head back over. There's the exterior of Pirates again. Everything here, you know, themed to as much detail as possible. Up above here, one of the little details I like to point out are these pirate flags. Everybody thinks of the Jolly Roger as the classic pirate flag, right? The black skull and crossbones. But in reality, pirates and privateers had their own flags. They didn't all fly the Jolly Roger. So while you see the one on the end, it was certainly one of the flags that was flown, but these others are actually flags of actual pirates. The one in the center there, you can't really see it, but it's a skeleton standing next to a bleeding heart. That was actually Blackbeard's pirate flag. And some of the others as well belong to different pirates. So again, just kind of like a nice fun little detail.
Yeah, that's really cool. And you don't need to show us, Brian, so you could just keep walking around in your path. But that Tortuga Tavern, correct me if I'm wrong, in Adventureland, that is an adventure-themed restaurant, Adventureland-themed restaurant. But if you're in Frontierland, it's actually Pecos Bills, right?
That is correct. That is correct. It's the same building space. There'd be pirates here.
Yeah, thank you. And I'm interrupting a show, so I'll stop talking.
No, it's okay. It's okay. It's okay.
What, Deacon? Good job, honey. Come here. No, we're going in.
See if we can. This is actually a great little photo opportunity. Anyway, one of my favorites. Wasn't too crazy, I'll be honest. I'm not crazy about putting the Captain Sparrow character into Pirates of the Caribbean. I definitely get why they did it. I just don't think, to be honest, it really fits in with the story that Mark Davis created for that attraction. But I get why they did it. So back here, another little detail there. You see the flag of Spain flying over our fort. Again, just kind of reinforcing the story and placing you where that we are in the Spanish fort for Pirates of the Caribbean. Spin around real quick. This large pagoda on my left here with all the thatch, that is actually from the Tiki Room attraction. Again, one of the opening day attractions here at Walt Disney World. A lot of history for the Tiki Birds. Walt actually was inspired to create audio animatronics because he was traveling, and at one point during his travels, he picked up this little gold like bird cage, very simple little gold bird cage, and inside was a little mechanical bird that would sit there and tweet and make noises and stuff. And that's what actually gave Walt the idea for the Enchanted Tiki Bird attraction. And then once he had the idea for the bird audio animatronic, then he started thinking even bigger, what can we do with human? And that's what led him to create Great Moments with Mr. Lincoln, which was the first human audio animatronic at the 1965 World's Fair in New York. And everything just kind of went from there. As real as all this patch looks, you see a lot of patch in the Disney theme parks, whether here, certainly at the Animal Kingdom and other places. Hate to tell you, but none of it's real. This patch here is actually kind of like a fiberglass. There's actually like little tubes that are painted. I'll see if I can zoom in a little bit. But it looks very realistic. But in the Florida weather, any kind of patch here would deteriorate in the sun and rain very quickly. This thatch is actually a little bit different. This is actually made from thin sheets of metal that are sliced, basically sliced really into very thin strips, and then they're painted on there. But again, you know, you can't really tell by looking at it unless you get up close. So, and then in front of us, of course, the world famous Jungle Cruise, which now, instead of being the Jungle Cruise, is the Jingle Cruise. Every year, they take and they retheme the Jungle Cruise to a holiday theme and give it a new holiday themed jokes and spiel. And it turns into the Jingle Cruise, and people come to the park, especially if you're a pass holder, you know, you live here. People just, you know, come here just to ride the Jingle Cruise. This attraction has a little bit of a special place in my heart because it was one of the attractions I worked on back before they just refurbished it. As you were standing in line, you would hear Albert Awol come in, and he was doing like a 1940s radio broadcast, and I actually wrote quite a bit of the jokes in the spiel for Albert Awol for that broadcast. But Albert Awol is no longer with us. His, I think, niece has taken over the Jungle Cruise now, and they've actually done a very nice job. Many of you might know how they just recently rethemed the Jungle Cruise, and I got to tell you, I was really had mixed feelings about it because I wasn't sure, based on the images that I was, you know, I had seen in the photos I'd seen, that it really, I just wasn't that crazy about it. But then when I actually rode the attraction, it really came together very, very nicely. And I got to give them props. You know, they did a great job with retheming it. They actually went back to a lot of the old original spiel from when the park first opened in that script. And, you know, it just really holds up very, very nicely. And people, I think, are very, very pleasantly surprised when they come off of it, how fun taking a cruise down the river can be. It's a lot of fun. I'm going to kind of spin around. As we come by here, this is Aladdin and the Magic Carpets. This used to be where the Dumbo ride was, and they moved Dumbo over to the Storybook Circus area over back in the back of the park by Fantasyland, and they put in Aladdin's Magic Carpets here. Again, just I wanted to show you guys some of the details, but like if I zoom into this blue part at the bottom, you see it's all different genie faces. And again, something that a lot of people won't really notice, but just a fun little detail. From a distance, it just looks like it's really kind of interesting, abstract bit of artwork. I also want to show you guys real quick a really neat Hidden Mickey. If you guys are Hidden Mickey fans, this is probably one of my favorite Hidden Mickeys. One of the most difficult ones to find, unless you know where it is, but it's over here by the Agrabah Bazaar. And as we come, it's actually going to be on the ground. And the way you find this is if you look at the Agrabah Bazaar, you can look in the ground and there's all kinds of like jewels and things embedded in the sidewalk. One of the things in the sidewalk, and this is what you have to look for, is this necklace here. And if you come down this way, you'll see the medallion from the necklace, and there's your Hidden Mickey. So that is a very, very difficult one to find, but now you can impress your friends because you all know where it is. And that's going to kind of take us through most of Adventureland. We're going to go by the Swiss Family Tree House. Swiss Family Tree House has got its own Disney scientific name. The English interpretation of the name is Unusual Disney Tree. And this is it here. That's not it. Let's see if I can get you guys. It's so realistic. It's made out of obviously concrete, rebar, steel posts. So it's probably the only truly hurricane-proof tree that you're going to find in the state of Florida. But if you look at the tree, it's very, very hard. It looks like a giant banyan tree here. And it's one of those attractions that, you know, you just kind of walk through. It takes like maybe 10, 15 minutes to walk through. And most people kind of skip it, but I definitely encourage you guys to walk through it, because not only is it just, you know, kind of a cool thing to walk through and see the different scenes from the Swiss Family Robinson movie. All the plants around here are all tropical plants. And there's a lot of edible species. You know, there's bananas, there's papaya. There's also things like papyrus, bamboo. So again, you know, very important to try and keep the landscaping and the horticulture, you know, true to the area to help tell the story as well. All of that plays a part in setting you in the right place at the right time. Gonna spin around real quick. Skipper Canteen is is restaurant across from the Jungle Cruise. Now the story with with Skipper Canteen, there's actually a whole backstory to the Skipper Canteen. But basically, that's where the Jungle Cruise skippers go to work when they're not working on the Jungle Cruise, because they can't make enough money, you know, just going up and down the river as Jungle Cruise guides. So a lot of them will work at Skipper Canteen to kind of supplement their income and earn some extra money. But as you go inside there's all kinds of artifacts and wonderful little Easter eggs in there as well. If any of you remember, well, I don't know if you guys are old enough you can remember, but Professor Cody, you probably do, Pleasure Island in the Adventurers Club. Some of the props from the Adventurers Club made their way into the Skipper Canteen. Again, that was just very much a very beloved attraction. So.
Yeah, and has a very devoted following now with
very much
Society of Explorers and Adventurers. Also,
yes,
story built around all the parks.
Yep.
Brian, we have about 20 minutes. As you walk over to Tomorrowland, I suppose that's where you're going.
Actually, I was going to go back to the hub, but I can cut through to Tomorrowland. That's the only place I do not go. So.
If as you walk over that way, could you kind of talk a little bit about the implementation of Disney Genie and Genie Plus, and kind of like, I don't know if you have tried it,
yeah,
you have kind of looked at the tip board and everything. Could you talk a little bit about that and how that is
so
changing the customer experience?
So I'll be honest, I have not tried Genie Plus yet, and I don't know a whole lot about it other than the fact that it is a continual evolution of the Magic Bands. And even before Magic Bands were created, touchless technologies and
let's go, guys. Get out.
urban engineering, if you will, that Disney has been working very, very hard to do. You know, you can imagine how challenging it can be to move this many people through a theme park, get them on and off attractions, get their food orders, all of that stuff. So Disney Magic Bands were one of the first forays to really kind of start to revolutionize that experience by having on your wrist, a way for guests to be able to pay for things, to schedule things, and interface with the mobile app. And then Genie Plus now is, again, the next evolution, where With this, what they're really trying to do is personalize your Disney experience. So by way of being able to track where you are in the parks with GPS, by way of understanding what your past buying habits have been, where you've eaten meals, all that kind of stuff. Disney Genie basically can take all of that information and aggregate it and make suggestions to you of where to go for different dining experiences, attraction experiences. It can tell you in real time what the wait times are for different attractions, can help you make reservations. So it's just a very, very powerful evolution of what the Magic experience, band experience started out to be. And now they're getting away from Magic Bands completely. And Genie Plus is really going to be more of a mobile app that they're implementing. And it's got a lot of like AI functionality built into it. There's a lot of just amazing engineering and technology built into it. And I'm sure we're just going to kind of continue to see that kind of thing evolve and improve. The other thing that, I know that they're looking at are like different augmented reality experiences, and I'm sure that's going to be built in if it's not already in Disney Genie. There are different photo lenses so that if you're taking pictures with your cell phone, it will know where you are in the park. And if you're in front of, say, Space Mountain, there might be, Goofy in an astronaut outfit that pops up if you want in your picture, or Mickey Pirate over by Pirates of the Caribbean. So again, it's all about just delivering that personalized experience for the guests.
Yeah, and Brian, to give you a little bit of rest from walking and talking, I think one of the neat things about the apps is now the company knows people are in their phones the whole time, and you're probably walking around the park and people are missing what's going on in the park because they're looking down at their phone. So they have kind of incorporated their people using their phones in the surrounding experience, and especially like with the Disney Parks Play app. That app allows people, when they're standing in line or when they're walking through an attraction into an area, they can listen to music and activity. But also when they're standing in line, there's games that they could play, but they're supposed to play them with multiple people. So it's not just me standing in line playing on my phone by myself. It's me standing in line using my phone to interact with, my friends or family, whoever's there with me. So I think it's kind of neat that they're now incorporating that, understanding where consumers are with our need to be in our phones all the time.
Right. So we are now in Tomorrowland, and I'm gonna kind of make my way past the people mover here. And right beyond that is Space Mountain. Off to the left is the newest attraction that's being built, which is the Tron Light Cycles, which is up and running, has been for some time in Shanghai, in Tokyo. And now it's coming here to the Magic Kingdom based on the movie Tron. From what I hear, just an amazing experience. So I'm very much looking forward. And I don't know if you can kind of come back here. And you can kind of see it under construction, which in a way is kind of rare to be able to see them building a major attraction when it's happening. You don't get to see that too often, but I'll kind of give you a little sneak peek of it as soon as I get underneath the people mover here. So if I spin around to my left, zoom in, you can kind of see that's eventually that's going to be covered with kind of like a Teflon material. But that's the frame of the outer portion. So the light cycles actually start out indoors. It's kind of like a roller coaster indoors, and then it breaks outdoors. And that area there will be covered with like a Teflon cover. Certainly if there's inclement weather or anything like that, you know, protect the gas. That's one of the reasons they did that. But it just looks very, very cool. And I think that pretty much brings us throughout the whole park. So let me kind of move back around here. I'll give you guys a little bit better view of Space Mountain.
Brian, I have one question.
Yep.
Hold on.
Fire away.
1 minute. You showed it. A student was asking if that was Space Mountain behind you, but
Yeah,
you showed it when you spun around earlier. So
that is Space Mountain.
anything else? Any? So somebody asked in the Frontierland area, there were a lot of different types of trees. And they wanted to know how well they're able to manage the trees in Florida and exactly, I guess, kind of how they do that.
Yeah. So, like I said, we have a pretty massive tree farm that has all kinds of different trees, not only for here in the Magic Kingdom, but if you think about in Epcot, for example, all of the world showcases use landscaping and horticulture that if it's not native to that country, it's at least very much representative to that country. Same thing here in Orlando, in Walt Disney World, the Magic Kingdom, is that in Frontierland, for example, would be like a lot of pine trees and things like that. Pine trees happen to be very much native to this area, so it's not very, very difficult to keep those trees healthy and growing. One thing I will say is that the horticulture department here, I mean, there are like world-class arborists that we have and people like that who understand, you know, the specific types of fertilizer plants, the watering needs, all that kind of stuff that it takes to keep all of this stuff in our theme parks looking good. One of the reasons that's very rare that you're ever going to see like a dead tree or, you know, a dead bush in our parks. If there is one, you know, if one starts showing signs of age or deterioration or whatever, they'll come in and they'll remove that and bring in a fresh plant from our tree farm or our, you know, backstage areas to fill that area in. So they take a lot of pride in there's a lot of expertise on our staff of people who understand plants and you know, certainly the challenging conditions that we can have here in this state.
Ryan, I don't think there are any other questions, but with the last few minutes that we have,
Sure.
could you talk a little bit about with Disney, and we've talked about when Disney came to Florida or opened in Florida, some of the things that they did as far as like the legislation and everything, but Disney has a very large impact beyond just the financial impact. Like you mentioned, the horticulture on property, and it's pretty clear to see when somebody goes to Animal Kingdom, then it's pretty, there's a pretty clear link between that and like the conservation fund. Like people just in the parks can see that there's a conservation fund and they can donate to it while they're there. But could you spend a couple minutes talking about how Disney has positively impacted Central Florida,
Yeah.
not just with tourism and the the almighty dollar?
That's a really timely question that you're asking me, and I'll tell you why. Just last week, I was in San Diego, and I was asked to speak to a panel, a leadership panel at a conference on transportation. And the panel was made up of 7 or 8 different state-level secretaries of transportation and a couple of people from the Federal Department of Transportation. And one of the things that, the whole thing I was talking to them about was, what's the future of transportation going to look like in this country, and how are departments of transportation going to change from being organizations that manage just, traffic flow and goods getting from point A to point B and constructing roads? How are they going to translate that into a more holistic view of the role that transportation can have in America? And one of the things I talked about was Walt Disney's original vision for Epcot, right? The experimental prototype community of tomorrow, or back in the city of tomorrow. And one of the things that Epcot had, if you never kind of done a deep dive into the history of Epcot, if you've never done a deep dive into the history of Epcot, it's something worth doing. You can find some videos that the Walt Disney Company made that explain what Walt's original vision was. And it was really quite profound for back then. One of the things that was really groundbreaking at the time was Walt's approach to transportation. He realized back then that roadways could contribute to excessive heat, that carbon emissions can contribute to pollution. And it was because of all these different understandings of how transportation impacts not only the community, but the world as a whole, that Walt, when he was designing Epcot, the idea was that there would be subterranean roadways. You would never see cars, gas-powered cars on the roadways. They would be traveling underground. Then you would get to a central hub where you would get on the people mover, for example, and your people mover would take you to a monorail station, and the monorail station would take you downtown. So it was all electronic modes of transportation. I think that's just one idea that kind of shows just how visionary Walt was, and Disney as a whole was, in not only transportation, but like I said, in horticulture. There have been, I can go on and on with the innovations that this company and the theme parks have created, in so many different levels. So yeah, it's definitely goes way far beyond just the profit and loss statements. Absolutely.
Anything else? All right, I think that takes care of all the questions that we had. Thank you so much for walking us around. This is the 4th part Brian has walked us around. This is his 5th time talking to the class. So as I said, we have to come up with some way to signify that you've been here 5 times. It won't be it will not be a jacket like they have on SNL. We know that. But
anytime,
so,
happy.
Thank you so much, Brian.
You're very welcome. You're very welcome. Thanks,
Thank you.
guys.
Have a great rest of the day.
Appreciate you joining me. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.